welcome back to Monday Morning Detective. This is Gino Scala and my guests. We're going to continue with the John Benet Ramsey investigation. It's private investigator Richard Cardo from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And where we left off was Richard had gotten his hands on a copy of the ransom letter. And as a profiler, he came up with his profile of potential suspects. This is what he's done in the past. He's held many people on their cases and such. And Richard is going to explain to us how he profiled these people and what his theory was. So, Richard, why don't you pick it up from here?
Thank you, Gino. So, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I hope you retrieved a copy. There's numerous sources where you can get that on the internet. A copy of the actual handwritten ransom note. Okay, so without delay, let's look into the ransom note. The very first thing I did was I went to the last page. I mean, there were 2 and a third pages he wrote. And, you know, when you're rewriting it and trying to get it right, you get tired. So I expected to find most of his mistakes on the last page. Okay, so that's why I started there. And of course, initials were very important. Okay, they were there. Could be a red herring. Could it be misleading? You're not going to know until you try. So.
And those initials were?
S, B, T, and C.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the very first thing I spotted on the initials, if you take a look at it, the letter C, not dotted. I thought it was kind of odd. You know, S, B, T were dotted.
Oh, as initials.
Right, as an acronym. And no dot. And so I magnified it 10 times to see maybe perhaps the dot was placed on the C. And it was like a felt marker. And no, there was no dot on it. In fact, under that magnification, you could tell the dots were, the first one went down, the second one went down. Oh, I'm sorry, they went across. And then the third one came down, like it was the final dot. So that told me that the C was added on later. And you take a look at it, you can see it's at a different angle, it's smaller. So he added the C later, which was kind of a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I figured it out. He added it later. Okay. And the one thing you're going to find out about this ransom note writer is his specificity. He's a perfectionist, you know, and so it was easy to eliminate the C from you know, looking at, obviously it was not an important word. Okay, so I focused on S, B, and T. Okay, so the first thing I did, he was complaining about something. He was whining about something for 2 and a third pages.
Well, hang on. Just to reiterate from last episode, you call them freakers.
Right.
You call
P-H-R-E-A-K-E-R-S.
P-H-R-E-A-K-E-R-S.
Right.
And the PH is for phone, and that's what these people do. They call themselves phone freakers or freakers,
right,
with the PH, and they tap into people's phones.
Right, they listen in on calls.
And get Social Security numbers, get credit card numbers, and this is a theft ring.
Right.
This is a skill that they've developed either as employees of the phone company or as these outside freakers, maybe have some knowledge of phones. Also, I know from personal experience, the cordless phones.
Right, at the time, actually, that's when the cordless phones came out. And they were tapping into frequencies. They talk about how to tap into these phones and the frequencies.
Well,
states.
I was watching television, and I have earphones because I'm hard of hearing, and I have earphones that connect to TV, and I heard a neighbor's phone call for an hour and a half. She was talking about selling drugs.
Wow.
And it was prescription drugs and all this stuff. But I turned down the volume of the television. I just listened to the conversation for an hour and a half. And so I know from personal experience that this is extremely popular. Well, possible, not
Yes.
popular, but possible.
Right. In fact, that's when they started developing spectrum. That's a technique or technology to develop because of that issue.
They block it.
Yeah, it helps from them holding on to one frequency, I think. But in any case, these guys are expert at listening in on information. And the big thing for them was not just stealing credit card numbers, but a very big thing about these freakers, and this is why I guess they use that word, the 900 numbers. At that time, that was a very popular thing. There was 900 numbers, particularly for sex chats. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they would...
I wouldn't know anything about it, but it's porn related.
Right. So people would call these numbers to get their groove on or whatever. And the thing was, these guys would, get on there with hacking techniques and they wouldn't have to pay. These things are really expensive.
Right.
Right. So they were listening in and getting their jollies, right, and stealing phone time. So that was the thing. And then, the phone companies would try to go after these guys and, put them in jail.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a big deal.
And add to this, this theory, very strong theory, one that no one has heard about. I can guarantee you, no, it's not been in any press or any book, except for the book that he's writing. And add to that, the Ramseys had reported that they were having issues with their phone.
To Lou Smith.
To Lou Smith.
That was very private information they did release.
Okay, so
that opened the door.
It adds credibility to this theory because you presented this theory to Lou Smith.
That's right.
And instead of saying, "You're a nutbag, get out of my office," he says,
"That's right. They did have problems with their phones." He also said, "Yeah, we did see that missing dot. Okay, on the initials.
Isn't that
they
cool?"
They noticed that too. So I told them what I thought it was, and I think the reason why the Lord put me in this place, right, is because a profiler is only as good as their reference. Okay, my father worked for the New York Telephone Company, so I was able to spot this issue. When I figured out what the initials were, that they were actually, well, let me tell you how I figured it out. I went back to the Ramsey note and looked at every word that started with S, B, or T. See if he was repeating himself. He was, he was
consistent. You mean in the way of writing?
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be he might have repeated himself. So I got all the way to near the end, where it's very close to the initials. And he talks about John Ramsey's Southern Common Sense. Okay? So that was kind of an odd thing for him to talk about. But, there was some kind of inside thing there.
And John is from Atlanta, is he not?
Yeah, well, he moved to Atlanta.
Okay.
The joke is his wife always says that to him.
Oh.
Right. She's from Atlanta. He's from Michigan. Right. So she always jokes around about that. See, that's something, so that's a little bit of information. Right. And this is one of the reasons I think Boulder also messed up on this. Because that statement, they started to believe Patsy was involved with this ransom note. Okay. But I can clearly show you why that's not the case. But, but Southern, what was so special about the Southern Common Sense? So I put Southern in for S. And then it was easy after that. Because B, Southern B, I thought, right, Southern Belle. I'm a fan of beautiful women. And then Southern Belle, and it just rolled right out for me. Southern Belle Telephone. And here is the thing I think is most important. Why was the dot missing? Why was that C placed later? My father, when he talked about where he worked, would say New York Telephone or New York Tel. They wouldn't say company at the end. Unless they were in like a formal gathering, then he would say the New York
That's
Telephone
the actual
Company.
name, right.
Right. So this guy had the same issue, right? He reread it and then said, I got to put that down. So it's there's a special word for that, but it's a behavior, right, that is consistent with a phone person. So, all right. So Southern Belle Telephone Company was what I came up with.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Okay, so That's a breadcrumb, really. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. It could be whatever, but I was going to follow this breadcrumb trail. Okay, so, and I started thinking, phone people, that would make a lot of sense, right? I started thinking about all the things, how they knew their information, their schedule, right? How, and another very important thing I want to mention. I think you guys all remember the Santa Claus deal about Joan Benet Ramsey, right? That a friend of hers had told her mom that Joan Benet told her that Santa Claus was going to pay her a visit after Christmas. Very significant, because the crime happened after Christmas. Someone did pay her a visit. Now, you have to believe the little girl, because why would she accuse Santa Claus of, of this crime?
She's not accusing Santa Claus. She's just saying that he had told her that she
Santa
would
Claus
be
was
visiting.
visiting.
So
Right.
is it your theory or your opinion that this old man playing Santa Claus was involved with these freakers?
No, not at all.
Okay.
What I figured was this. That old guy had like 4 heart operations and all kinds of issues. And there was no material from the Santa Claus suit there either. But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. The Ramseys would remember someone looking like Santa Claus talking to their daughter. Right?
Right.
Especially with this situation. But what they didn't see anybody. What did the Santa Claus talk to Joan Benet over the phone? See, they get on the phone. She's having a conversation with someone. Person gets off, and then he gets on. Says, "Oh, hi, Joan Benet. This is Santa Claus." Blah blah blah. Very easy.
Okay.
That would explain, right, this story, because they would have remembered someone looking like Santa Claus. But if they never saw him,
Right.
okay,
So you think John Benet was on the phone with somebody
right, one of the crew.
and
One of these phone people.
do 6-year-olds answer the phone or?
She was probably already on the phone. They were listening in. And then whenever the person hung up that she was talking to, maybe aunt, uncle, or whatever.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Remember, they were having problems with the phone.
Right.
Okay? So, I think, and they were talking to her, what's the best way to get in? Can you leave your door open? Whatever it was. Okay? But they told her they're going to visit her after Christmas, and they're going to bring her something special. And, that was another thing that came up later. There's so many details here.
Okay.
But, all right.
Now, in our next episode, we're going to talk about sitting down with Lou Smith and meeting John Ramsey and getting his okay to continue with the investigation. And we'll pick it up from there. Okay? So we'll close out this episode of Monday Morning Detective, and we'll see you at the next one.